people, let's continue our discussion on marathon series. So the next revision topic is accounting standard 17 that talks about segment reporting. Now, what is the scope of this standard is? AS 17 simply says you have to give some additional information. You have to give some additional information either product wise or location wise. Either product wise or location wise, so that the users can use the financial statements better, or it will help them in their decision making. That's all is the thought process of AS 17. It is not a numerical, it's not a recognition standard. In fact, when you have studied accounting standard, you would have learned any accounting standards covers only 4 areas, which we used to call it as RMPD: recognition, measurement, presentation, disclosure. Recognition means numerical, right? Measurement means finding the numerical ka value. P means presentation, means where you will show in P&L, balance sheet, or where. Disclosure means giving the additional information in notes to accounts. So this standard will not have effect in journal entry, balance sheet, trial balance, nowhere. This standard ka effect is only felt in notes to accounts. Hence, we say this is a disclosure related standard. Why this standard? Very simple. Let's say birthday girl, Hema, no? Now, Hema, let's say has a 10, Hema only, no? Correct, no? Hema has a 10 lakh rupees with her. Rich person she is. She wants to invest. Her thought process is very simple. She wants to invest in that company who have greater presence in the electric vehicle segment. Whichever company produces more and more electric vehicle, whichever has higher exposure to what segment? Electric vehicle segment, she wants to invest in that company. Okay. Now she did her research and she finalized 2 companies, Tata Motors and Maruti Suzuki. 2 companies ka research like she has done and finalized. Now people, when you visualize when you see company ka P&L account, what is P&L account ka first component? Under the income side, what is the first component? Revenue from operations. That is nothing but sales. Is it product sale, location sales, or total sales? So the sales that you show in P&L is always total sales. Looking at that, looking at the P&L account, will Hema get to know how much sales is coming from electric cars, how much from petrol, diesel cars? That information, is it available in P&L or not available? Not available. But she has full clarity. Whichever company produces more and more electric car, she wants to invest in that company. But is that information available to her from financial statement? Not available, correct? No, because the sales that you show in P&L is the total sales. Don't you think that if the information, if this breakup is given to her, she will take her decisions better? So that is where AS 17 segment reporting has come into picture. Okay. Now let's say, if like this, let's say Tata Motors car, 30% of the revenue is coming from electric vehicles, 70% is from the other vehicles like petrol, diesel, blah, blah. Maruti Suzuki ka 5% sales is from electric vehicles, 95% is from others. If this information, if it is given, what do you think Hema would choose? Which company ka shares will she invest in? Suzuki or Tata? Obviously Tata, because Tata has a higher sales from electric vehicles. Yes or no? So that is where AS 17 is making the company give some extra disclosure. Danaji, that's a background behind AS 17. So what information you will give as per AS 17? Simply some extra information where? In notes to accounts, either product wise or location wise. Some extra information other than your P&L, balance sheet, cash flow statement, certain extra info you give for better decision making process. That's all. Okay, people. So when should we give the information product wise? When should we give it location wise? Sir, first of all, if you are giving information product wise, we say you are following business segment. We are following business segment. If you are giving the information location wise, we say you are following geography segment. Segment could either be a business segment or a geography segment. Okay. Now, sir, when should we follow business segment, sir? If the risk and reward for a company, if it is based on the product. If the risk and reward for the company, if it is based on product, then you will give the information what wise? Product wise. That we say we are doing what approach? Business segment approach. Like here, let's say there is one company in Bengaluru. They are selling 3 products. They are selling 3 products. They have only one location in Bengaluru. How many products are they selling? 3 products. Now you tell me, risk and reward is driven by the location or product? The products are influencing the risk and reward for the company. Yes or no? That means information should be given, segment information should be given what wise? Product wise. That means we say we are following what approach? Business segment approach. Suppose if the risk and reward, if it is influenced by the location, if the risk and reward, if it is driven or influenced by the location, then we say we are following what approach? Geographical segments. Like let's say this example. There is one company called Y Limited. They produce and sell only one product. They produce and sell only one product, but they sell it in India, US and UK. One product they are selling in what location? How many locations? 3 locations. Now you tell me, selling the product in selling price in India and selling price in US will be same. Huh? No, obviously India ka environment and US, UK ka environment are all different. Each country will have its own selling price, its own cost. Now you tell me, is the risk and reward for the company driven by the product or driven by the location? Location. Now if you think about it, information, additional information should be given what wise? Product wise or location wise? Location wise, you should give some information. What informations? I will tell you, but you have to give the information location wise because you are following what here? Geographical segments. Done. Next, sir, if you think about big companies, they deal with one product. They'll have thousands of products. That means you will give 1,000 informations. Then segment reporting only will become this big. Nobody will read also. Forget about reading. Nobody will take it also. If you give this booklet of annual report, anybody will take. Or even if they take, they'll put it to paper mart. At least 200 rupees we will get. Correct? No, it will not help the users. Correct? So what standard says is, first, every information we can't give product wise or location wise because we could have hundreds and thousands of products, hundreds and thousands of location. It's quite difficult. It will become too voluminous, right? Hence, what AS17 said is, we will bring something called test. We'll bring in some 10% threshold test, we call it. They've introduced 3 10% threshold tests. Whichever segment means simply a division, location, whatever it is. Whichever segment satisfies at least one of the condition. It's not all the 3, at least one of the 3. That segment ka, that division ka information has to be given in notes to accounts. Not all the 3, any of the 3. And all these are, we call it as 10% threshold test. All the 3. Anybody remembers what are those? 10%? 10% revenue test, 10% result test, 10% asset test. So all the 3 are this: revenue, result, asset. How does revenue test work? Very straightforward. Now, if you have 5 segments, if you have 5 divisions, all the 5 segments ka internal revenue, external revenue you add. Internal revenue, external revenue you add. Internal revenue means, can one segment sell the goods to other segment? Can one department sell the goods to other department? Yes, that we call it as what? Internal revenue. Can a segment sell the goods to an outside customer? Yes, that outsiders comes under what category? External sale. So the internal and external sales, both you add. Let's say that comes to 100, assumption. Let's say that comes to 100. Calculate 10% of this number. The internal and external revenue you have added of all the segments, no? Add them up and multiply by what percentage? 10%. How much are you getting? 10 rupees. Correct? Now, whichever segment has a revenue of 10 rupees or more, whichever segment has a revenue of 10 rupees or more has satisfied this test. It has fulfilled or it has passed this test. 10 or more. Okay, that's how revenue test works. We'll apply it in one problem also. Just say. Clear with this? Same goes for asset test. Same goes for asset test. So what do you have to do? All the segments ka assets you add. All the segments ka asset you add. Let's say that comes to 5 lakh. That comes to 5 lakh. Multiply 10% of that. How much is this? 50,000. Whichever segment has an asset. Asset here refers to current asset and fixed asset, both put together. Whichever segment has an asset of 50,000 or more has failed the test or passed the test. Has passed the test. That's how 10% asset test works. Same like revenue. Okay, the last test is 10% result test. 10%. They did not say 10% profit test. They said 10% result. Result for you is what? For you, the result is pass. So now it is fancy. Psychologically better term they've used. Successful, unsuccessful. For us, though, it was literally fail only. Yeah, pass or fail, they used to say. The word fail, no, psychologically it hits you differently. I think unsuccessful is same. I thought at least you'll have a little better feeling. No feeling. And same only they're saying. Okay. So for us, it is pass or fail means for company, what is the result? Profit or loss. So it is not profit test. It is result test. How the result test works is, sir, if you have 10 segments, by chance, if you have 10 divisions, is it necessary all the 10 divisions should make profit? No. Some may make profit, some may make loss. So what you have to do first is, whichever segment has made only profit, not loss, whichever segment has made only profit, take them up and add them. All the segments which has reported a profit, collect their data and what? Add. Let's say that comes to how much? 500, assumption. Which is left out to loss. Okay, done. Thanks, Macha. Whichever segment has made only loss, whichever segment has reported only loss, find them up and add. Let's say that comes to how much? 700. The segments which have reported a profit, their number is how much? 500. The segments which have reported a loss, their total number is how much? 700. What 10% result says is, profit loss you compare in absolute number. Profit to loss, so you compare in what number? Absolute number. Absolute number means ignore the sign. Positive, negative you ignore. Only compare 500 with 700, which is higher. See, leave the sign. Forget the sign. 500, 700, which is higher? 700. That means you will take 700. And then do what? What test is this? 10%. 700 ka 10% you multiply. How much is that? 70. This is the number you look for. Whichever segment either has a profit of 70 or more, whichever segment has a loss of 70 or more has passed this test. Whichever segment has a profit of either 70 or more or loss of 70 or more has passed this test, and they are to be reportable in your financial statements. That's how the test. And is it necessary all of them has to be satisfied, or any one of the three is okay? Any one is okay in that regard. Any doubt so far? Nothing. Okay, moving along. Let's do a thing. Let's apply it off immediately in one problem. May give a better clarity. Check this. Study material question again. The chief accountant of sports gives the following data for how many segments? 6 segments. So all the numbers are in lakhs. They have given you asset to result to revenue. First, let's do the revenue test. Sometimes they will give you internal revenue, external revenue ka breakup. Sometimes they may not give. Here given, not given. Not given. How many segments? 6 segments. But good thing is they have only given the total. What is the total revenue of all the segments? 1200. So first let's do revenue test. The internal and external revenue of all the segments is 1200. Take that. Multiply 10% of that. How much is it? 1200 ka 10% is how much? 120. This is the number we are looking for. Whichever segment has a revenue of 120 or more has passed this test. Look, which and all has 120 or more? M has a yes, N yes, O no, P, Q, R no. So which has passed this test? M and N. That's what you'll write. Therefore, M and N are RS. RS as in reportable segments because they have passed this test. Okay, G. Now let's do the second one. What is the second test? Result test. It's not order, you can do it in any order. 10% result test. For result test, help me out. What do you do first? Only those segments which reported profit. Find them, add them. Which segment reported profit? MO, O, P, R. The circle numbers you add 60, 70, 100. If you add all those numbers, you're getting 100, correct? So the profit reported by all the segment is 100. Second step. Those segments which reported only loss, find them, add them. This one, how much? 200 is a total loss. Now compare what? The total profit and total loss, you compare an absolute number ignoring the signs. Ignoring the sign, 100, 200, which is higher? 200. So that means the number you look for is 200. 200 ka 10% you do. How much you going to get? 200 ka 10% is 20. Whichever segment either has a profit of 20 or more or loss of 20 or more has passed this particular test. So the number you're looking for is 20. Which has 20? M has a yes. N yes. O no. P no. Q no. R yes. That means which has passed? M, N and R. So as per this particular test, M, N, R are reportable segments. Last test or wait. Move forward. Okay, last test. What is that? Asset test. In asset test, what do? Find out the total assets of all the segments. We have to do or already they've done. How much is that? 200. Find out 10% of that, which is how much? 20. Whichever segment has a total asset of 20 or more are reportable. So your number you're looking for is 20 or more. Asset. M passed? Yes. N has more 20 or more. Yeah. O yes. P yes. Q yes. R no. That means what are those? M, N, O, P, Q. M, N, O, P, Q are reportable segments. Now is it mandatory that segment has to pass all the tests or any of the tests? So if you just check almost every segment has passed at least one of the tests. Correct? No. At least one of the tests they passed. That means what is the final conclusions? All segments are reportable segments over here. And they will tell, we will only report M ka data. Check what is our chief accountant telling you. He's saying only M and N we will report. Acceptable, his views are acceptable or justified or not justifiable. M and L, you have to report every segment ka data because all of them have passed the test. That's all it is. Okay, next one. Sir, there is one more aspect that we have to do here. After 10% test, we'll have to do something called 75% threshold test. After 10%, we'll have to do some test called 75% threshold test. What is this? First, you do 10% test. First, you do 10% test. What will you get? Reportable segments. Which in all segments are reportable, you will be able to identify. Now, 75% threshold test, what it says is the external revenue, not internal, the external revenue of reportable segments should at least be 75% of the external revenue of the company. Revenue of the company means obviously external. External revenue of what? Reportable segments should at least be 75% of the total revenue of the company. Okay. If it is so, then the test has been passed. If it fails, then the company has to identify more segments to report. If this test is passed, awesome, nothing more to be done. If this test fails, then company has to voluntarily pick additional segments and give their data. Which segments they pick, that is their choice. Okay. So if you have little confusion, let's take one question on the 75% to give a little better clarity. Again, study mat question. Identify reportable segments from the following data. For Z, all the numbers are in lakhs. They have given only one information relating to revenue. Internal revenue they have given, external revenue they have given. First, let's do the normal 10% test. Order is this only. First 10% test, then only 75%. Because 75% threshold test is only applicable on reportable segments which are identified as per 10%. So first 10%, then only 75%. Okay, so let's do 10% test. Can we do all the three 10% tests or only one? Only one. Why? Information not available. Asset information, result information. Given or not given? Not given. That means we can only test what? Revenue test. How do you do 10% revenue test? Internal revenue of all the segments you add. External revenue of all the segments you add. How much is it? 100. Okay. 100 ka 10% you do. How much is it? 10. All the numbers are in lakhs. So that means 10 lakhs. Yes, 10. Okay. Now, whichever segment has a revenue of 10 or more has passed this test. Whichever segment has a revenue of 10 or more. Which has 10 or more? A has a. Yeah. B has no. C has no. D has yes. So, as per 10% revenue test, which are reportable segments? A and D. That's what they have written here. A and D are reportable segments as per what test? 10% revenue test. Confusion or okay? Now, there ends the matter or one more test? What is that one more test? 75% threshold test you'll have to do. Again, I'll tell you the provision once for your reference. 75% threshold says this. The external revenue of the reportable segments should at least be 75% of the total revenue of the company. Okay, that means we are looking at what now? Let's go word by word. External revenue of reportable segments. Which and all are reportable segments? A and D. What are their external revenue? 30 and 5. So the external revenue of reportable segments is 30 plus 5, which is 35. Clear? Huh? What is the total revenue of the company? Say internal revenue will be taken away. Why? Sir, internal revenue means what? A selling the goods to B. For A, it will be sales. For B, it will be purchase. It will get what? Eliminated. When you say revenue of a company, the revenue that you show in P&L of a company is always what? External. It's always external. Internal revenue is like, that's what? For one division, it's a sale. For another division, it's a purchase. That will get eliminated. So, what is the total revenue of the company? Or what is the total external revenue of the company? 50. Easy now. The total external revenue of the company is 50. Okay. Find out the percentage of this. Total external revenue of the company is 50. External revenue of the reportable segment is 35. Find out the percentage. What is it? How do you find percentage? Out of 50, A and D is giving how much? 35. So what is it in percentage? 35 divided by 50 into 100 if you do, you will get how much? 70%. You are getting 70%. What is that test ka name? 75% threshold test. This number, this percentage what you have found now should be 75% or more. It should be 75% or more. Is it 75% more or lesser? That means this test is passed or failed. That's what you have to write. So A and D have passed or failed 75% test. They have failed. If it fails, what management has to do is they can't give only A ka data, D ka data. They have to pick more. One more or two more, their choice. To make sure that 75% threshold is satisfied, they will have to pick more segments. Maybe they may pick C. Maybe they may pick C. If they pick C, what will happen? Check. Add these three. The external revenue of ABC you add. External revenue of ABC. They can take C also, they can take D also. Their choice. Suppose you take C, what will happen? Rather this one. A, C, and I think 10% test reported A and D. Na? Okay, let's test with A, C, D. External revenue is how much? At 40. 38. 43.5. What is the external revenue of the company? 50. So calculate the percentage. 43.5 divided by 50. How much is it? 87. Requirement is only 75. Failed or passed? Passed. That means you can add one more called C. If you want, you can pick B also. If you want anything. The company ka choice. Whatever they want, they can play around. But this percentage should be 75% or more. That they have a choice. That's all it is. But do keep in mind that 75% threshold test does not include internal revenue. It only works on the external revenue side. Because internal revenue is not really a revenue. It is like transferring 100 rupees from your left hand to right hand. Because both the divisions belong to the same company. So it's not really a revenue. Okay. Yeah. This is one. Carry on. Okay. This is done. This is done. This is done. Okay. Then few other pointers are. Sir, if a segment is RS means what? Reportable segment. If a segment is a reportable segment in the current year, then such segment ka previous year data also you need to give. Because whenever, if you have seen balance sheet, annual report and all, no, do they give only current year information or also previous year? Previous year for comparison purpose. So even notes to accounts also has to be given in the same fashion. So if a segment is a reportable segment in the current year, its current year data should be given along with what? Previous year data, so that users can compare to see what has happened in that segment. That is one. Next point is, if a segment is a reportable segment in the previous year, then current year also it is reportable, even if it fails 10% test. It's a cautionary measure. Maybe once again I'll call out that provision. If a segment is a reportable segment when? In the previous year, then current year also it is reportable segment, even if it fails 10% test in the current year. Why? Sir, a test is getting passed means this is a small segment or a major segment. See, 10% is a big number, yes, no? So last year that segment passed. Let's say last year segment A passed the test. Last year it passed the test. Current year it failed the test. Now you tell me, sir, if it fails the test in the current year, that means this division is doing good or something has gone wrong? Something has gone wrong because the percentage has reduced, yes or no? If something has gone wrong, as a user, wouldn't you want to know that? That's the reason this is brought in as a precautionary measure. If last year, if something was a reportable segment, means current year also it's data you give, so that let the users be aware that something has gone wrong, so that they can take their decisions better. It's a precautionary measure basically. You don't have to mention anything, you just give the data. Like segment A ka data you give it for current year, last year. You don't have to tell it failed or 10% test and all that. Mirch masala not required. Give the data. That's it. Users automatically will compare. When they compare, they'll get to know that something has gone wrong. That's good enough. So all this okay, sir. What and all data we need to give, sir? Sir, you have to give revenue, result, asset, liability. Information. You have to give segment ka information in notes to accounts. No. What information you will give? Revenue, reportable segment ka revenue, result, assets, liability, all at total level. Reportable segments ka how much is total revenue, how much is that total profit or total loss, how much is that total assets, how much is that total liability. And we also have to reconcile this. Whatever data you give in notes to accounts has to be attached or reconciled to balance sheet data or P&L data. One reconciliation question, I think couple of them we have done in the regular class. Here we'll only discuss it orally. Excuse me. Okay. Sir, suppose risk and reward is driven by products. Risk and reward is driven by product. That means how will you give segment ka data? Product wise or location wise? If the risk and reward is driven by product, you will give the information product wise. Yes. That we call it as primary segment reporting. You will give the main data what wise? You will give the main data what wise? Product wise. That we call it as what, sir? Primary segment reporting. That means location information totally we'll ignore, sir. No. Location information you can't totally ignore. What you have to do is, suppose you have multiple products, multiple locations, multiple products, multiple location. But mostly your risk and reward is driven by product. Mostly company ka reward and risk is driven by what? Is influenced by what? Product. That means this revenue, result, asset, liability information, you will give it what wise? Location wise or product wise? Product wise. That's primary segment reporting. But you also need to check which location. Is there any location which is giving you more than 10% sales? Is there any location which is giving more than 10% sales? Is there any location which is having more than 10% of the total assets of the company? You need to check two things. What is that? Main information you give it what wise? In my example, main information you will give it what wise? Product wise. But you will also check what? Is there any location which is generating 10% or more of the total sales of the company? That is one. Also, is there any location which has 10% or more of the total assets of the company? if at all we have such a location, their sales and asset information also has to be disclosed as what? Secondary reporting. Not every location data you don't have to give. Only those locations which are generating how much sales? 10% or more sales of the company. Suppose sales of the company is 10 crore. Total sales of the company is 10 crore. We have, let's say, one US division, US segment. They are generating 2 crore revenue. They are generating how much revenue? 2 crore. Calculate percentage. Out of 10 crore, 2 crore is coming from US. How much is this percentage? 20%. Is it 10% or more? Yes. That means US ka sales information you will have to give. Okay. Same wise, you'll have to do the same drama for asset also. If any location is having 10% of the total assets of the company, then such a location ka asset information has to be given as primary or as secondary. Secondary means just as an add-on. Done, Aji. Okay, let's see how well you have got this. Okay, tell me the answer for this. PK Limited has identified business segment as primary reporting. Business segment means information what? Location wise or product wise? Product or service wise, if you are giving information, we say we are following business segment. So primary reporting is done what wise? Product service wise. It has identified India, US, UK as 3 geographical segments. We have 3 locations, India, US and UK. It sells products in Indian market which constitutes 70% of company sales. Of the total sales, how much revenue comes from India division? 70%. How much comes from US? 25%. How much balance is in UK? Balance is how much? 5%. Now you have to tell me which geographical secondary segment information has to be given. India, US and UK, all the 3 or only some of the 3? Only what? Like here this is a breakup. Out of the 100% revenue of the company, 70% is from India, 25% is from US. The balancing figure 5% is from UK. UK ka information necessary to be given or not required? Because what is the percentage we're looking for? 10% or more. UK is giving 10% or more, not required. That means you have to give secondary information only what wise? India wise, US wise. That's all is the answer. Okay. Now people, we are talking about segment revenue, right? This may not be that important. If at all they ask reconciliation question, this table chart, what I've written, contents comes into picture. Otherwise, no. Sometimes they ask, sometimes they do. Not that a popular question, but once or twice here and there it has come. What is that? We're talking about segment revenue, correct? For 10% revenue, we're talking about segment revenue and all. Now, segment revenue, if you want here also, if you check, if you wrote here, we wrote, when you give a reporting, what and all you will report? Revenue you will report. So for reporting purpose, what is revenue? For AS17 reporting purpose, what is revenue? For AS17 reporting purpose, revenue means internal revenue, external revenue, as well as allocated revenue. Revenue for reporting purpose will include internal, external and allocated. External revenue means what? Segment selling the goods to an outside the customer, outside the entity customer. That is external. Internal means one segment selling the goods to other segments. That is internal. Allocated revenue. What is this allocated revenue? Sometimes what will happen, like here, let's say one company, one car manufacturer, Hyundai, they have 2 segments. They have identified 2 segments, petrol segment, diesel vehicle segment. That's how they've identified. Petrol vehicles, diesel vehicles is what they've categorized. Those are the 2 segments for them. Let's say one customer is there. He has petrol also, petrol car also. He has diesel car also. One for him, one for his wife. One more for his girlfriend. One for himself, one for his wife. Okay, now 2 cars he has. He has already purchased it. Now he got that for service. Service. Sir, when you take the car for service, so will the company do the service at free of cost or they will put you now? They'll put tax, correct? No. Now people, service bill came to 20,000. Service bill came how much? 20,000. 1 car or 2 cars? 1 car or 2 cars? 2 cars. So that means this is a revenue. This is the revenue. This revenue belongs to petrol segment also. It belongs to diesel segment also. Yes, no. So what we have to do? Allocate. Hence, we say segment revenue includes allocated revenue also. Sometimes what happens, multiple segments can have one billing, which we may have to allocate. So these three, if you add together, you will get what, sir? Segment ka revenue. But segment ka revenue excludes few things. Sir, when we are giving segment information, the idea is to give the operational data. Operational data. If segment has any extraordinary item, tell me, extraordinary item you will get every day. Yeah? So does it make sense to give this information to the users, that to segment wise? We are giving the information segment wise so that user can understand how strong is the business. Yes, no. Extraordinary items means some lottery income or some fire or flood settlement or all this. All this will come every day or once in a blue moon. Once in a blue moon. So segment revenue will not include extraordinary items. If it is included, excluded. If there is any interest income, dividend income, profit on sale of investment and all, you eliminate. Why? Sir, when will you invest the money? When will you invest the money? When we have surplus. But the intention of giving segment reporting is to what? To know how well the business is doing or how well the business is investing. How well the business is managing their own core operations. Yes, no. So only core main operations related data you want to give. But you will make the investment only when you have some surplus money. That will not help the users to understand the major business or core business understanding better. Hence, they have taken a view that these three incomes and all, don't consider it as segment for the segment revenue calculation. We are not saying don't account. We are saying don't consider it for what purpose? Segment revenue purpose, that too for segment reporting. That's it. If they ask, you may have to remember, but not that popular as such. Okay, sir. But one good thing is, one, if you know, you can build the other one automatically. Like segment expense. Now, don't look at this. Tell me, what and all segment expense will include? Keep this as a base and tell me. What will segment expense include? If you have a division, that division will have their own expense. That we call it as operating expense. Here, if you have include inter-segment sales, there you will include inter-segment purchase. That we call it as inter-segment expense. Okay. Here, if it is allocated revenue, there will be allocated expense. That's all. Okay. So, what is allocated expense? Now, to service these two cars, we will hire. Petrol vehicles will have separate workers. Diesel vehicles will have separate worker, or one worker can service both the cars. There could be one labor who could service the petrol cars also, diesel car also. Yes, no? But that employee belongs to petrol division as well as diesel division. Will he get two salary or one salary? One salary. But that salary belongs to both petrol segment and diesel segment. So you will have to allocate. Basically common cost, just like your joint product. Okay, no? So that is your allocated expense. Same way, tell me what are the exclusions of segment expense? What and all you will exclude? Look at this and tell me. Extraordinary items, because extraordinary items could be income or it could be expense. So this is included. Then interest expense. Dividend is not an expense, cut it off. Then here profit on sale means there it will be loss on sale. And then it will also be your income tax expense. Income tax expense is not related to a particular segment. Rather it is related to business as a whole. Hence excluded. Done, Aji? Similarly, segment assets, you know this, building up. Tell me, segment assets will include what? If you have a division, that division can have their own assets. You can also have some allocated assets, right? Allocated assets means like, one second. Like here, what are the two segments? Petrol and diesel. Will we have a separate building for petrol vehicles, separate building for diesel, or we'll have common building? In one building, we will be operating both the divisions. That means that building belongs to petrol segment also, diesel segment also. So you'll have to allocate. That is your allocated assets. Segment assets will exclude deferred tax asset because deferred tax assets are bookish assets. If you have any general assets or head office assets, exclude them because this does not belong to any separate segments. Same goes for segment liability. Segment liability will include their own division ka liability as well as allocated liability. Here, deferred tax liability is excluded. General liabilities are excluded. General assets means, you remember I gave you one research building, one example in some standard. Now, ArivuPro, we have CA, CS and ACCA. We also have another building where we are thinking about which new business to start. That new business ka building, is it related to CA, CS, ACCA or not related? That is your general assets. Okay, sir? Like that. If you have any general assets, exclude. That's it. Done, people. I think all the things that I have in mind, we are done. Thank you for your time and patience.